You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna drink a fine whiskey and smoke a really fine cigar. I said, hey, ladies, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, ladies, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. You're welcome to drink our whiskey and smoke our really fine cigars. One more time, boys. I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna smoke a really good cigar and drink a really fine whiskey.
All right, the Man Cave Happy Hour. We are at the Wine Garden once again. It is a very special event with Buffalo Trace Distilleries. And we have the great, we're going about 4 deep, great. And we got Beau Beckman with us today. And we're going to be talking to him coming up and talking to all the people here to get autographs and talk bourbon. And let's start talking bourbon right now.
Yeah.
With who do we go with this here?
My name's Andrew Mishra. I'm more or less a recent bourbon connoisseur.
Okay.
I started drinking Jim Beam in college
All right.
10 years ago.
All right.
But over the last 5 years, got into more old fashions and actually worrying about the taste of the bourbon. And my grandfather on from my wife's side got me into old fashions, and now here I am in a line to get a bottle signed.
Right on. So, out of the Buffalo Trace line, is there one that stands out for you as a favorite?
Actually, the Taylor. It's kind of
Okay.
why I'm here.
All right.
I have a single barrel bottle open right now that I would call it my weekend drinker.
Okay.
And then, Buffalo Trace. Any of the store picks are really good for like a daily drinker.
Sure.
So
Sure.
Yeah.
Today we're looking at the small batch.
Yeah.
Did you pick up one of those guys?
I did. Yeah, I picked up a small batch, and I also picked up another Buffalo Trace, one of the Brotherhood of the Barrel store picks here.
Okay.
To replenish my stock.
All right. So when you're mixing, how do you make your? You said the Manhattans or old fashions?
Old fashions.
Okay. How do you make
Yeah.
your
So,
old fashioned?
Start off with just a regular rocks glass,
All right.
a little bit of turbinado sugar,
Okay.
some
sounds-
orange bitters.
Okay.
Muddle it up, 2 ounces of whatever bourbon I'm drinking that day, or rye. I've actually been kind of switching over to rye for old fashions.
Okay.
Sazerac rye, which is another Buffalo Trace, oddly enough.
There you are.
Yeah, and then stir it up, slice of lemon peel, and
Sure.
good to go.
So do you ever make your own sugar at home? Your own sugar water? You ever melt it down?
No. I just do the turbinado sugar and
Okay.
and the bitters to start the muddling. It's usually enough to get it going.
Right on. So what's the prize bottle in your collection? What's the where is there one you're waiting on for a special
Yeah,
occasion?
it's coming in tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Via FedEx. I ran my lucky numbers in a raffle on my birthday 2 days ago and won a bottle of Taylor 4-grain.
Hey.
So very happy to get that. I try to sample, and it is as magical as they say it is.
Okay.
So
You'll save that one?
I'll keep a hold of that one.
Yeah.
That will not be emptied quickly.
Sure. Will you save it to break it for a special occasion?
Probably.
Yeah.
Got to find the right one.
All
I mean,
right.
we're 13 weeks pregnant right now with our first kid, so maybe it will be opened in the next 8 months.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks for hanging out in the Man Cave.
Yeah, no
All
problem.
right.
Nice
Cheers.
talking to you, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm coming to put it next week.
You guys want to interview next?
Hey, we're here in the Man Cave Happy Hour, and we're in the Wine Garden, and of course it's the Buffalo Trace Taylor release of the small batch here, and we got people coming in, and another guy stopped in to pick up a bottle and get it autographed. Are you gonna get it autographed?
Yeah.
All right. So what's your name?
Scott.
Hey, Scott. Are you part of the Michigan Bourbon Club?
No.
No, you're not.
I'm not.
Okay. So how'd you hear about this?
The Wine Garden
page.
Just from the Wine Garden
I
page.
follow Wine Garden.
All right, right on. So out of the Buffalo Trace, are you a big fan of bourbons in general, or?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I got a big collection of bourbon.
Okay, right on. So, well, you got to look. You got to find the Michigan Bourbon Club and join that, because these guys are crazy. I can't imagine. It's like, I thought I drank a lot, and then I met these guys, and it's like, holy smokes. It's crazy. It's nuts. So, you came in to get that signed. Have you had the General Taylor before?
Yes.
Okay, and you enjoy it?
Oh, yeah. I've actually got a bottle that's almost gone. That's
Okay, so there was a good timing on the release of this, right? Excellent. Did you try the sample? They had samples of the. Hopefully there's one more up there for you, because they have the. This is the small batch, but they got the barrel proof up there. So maybe we'll go grab you one.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks for stopping in.
Thank you.
All right. So at the Wine Garden for the signing with Beau Beckman and Buffalo Trace and the Colonel Taylor, and with us another person who stopped in. What's your name?
It's Rich Horniak.
All right, hey Rich, thanks for being out here. We appreciate you popping out. This is a podcast called the Man Cave Happy Hour, and we're just talking about spirits and why people like them and how they do them. And so, what brought you out today?
Part of the NBC Bourbon Club, the camaraderie.
Yeah.
The people, and obviously the taste of a good product.
Sure. So is the Buffalo Trace line one of your favorites, or you don't have to sell it. So, but is it?
Yes.
All right, right
By
on.
far. Oh yeah. Hard to get though. That's the problem.
So, well, there you go. So we got our hands on this one's mine here. I don't know. I keep walking away from it. That's kind of crazy. So the Taylor small batch, but Big Tony, right? Here at the Wine Garden, super generous and gave us a pour of the barrel strength, right? Did you try that?
I sure did, and wow, fantastic.
Yeah. So out of the Buffalo Trace line, do you have a favorite?
Blanton's.
Blanton's? All right.
Yeah. I mean, out of that, yes.
Okay. And so do you have any prized bottles at home that you're saving for a special occasion?
Came in here today to pick up my private barrel from here, from the Wine Garden. So.
Okay. So the Blanton. Oh, you picked it up. All right.
Which is kind of nice. So I'm excited. So I got like killing two birds with one stone.
Okay. Yeah. So the Blanton's barrel pick. So from what I hear, I haven't had it yet, but I hear it's spot on.
We're gonna find out here in a little bit.
Are you? You gonna crack it? You don't? Do you have any bottles you have saved that for?
Actually, I do have a couple of the Taylor put away.
Yeah.
I have a few Blands put away, and I mean, anybody that collects bourbon has a couple, right?
Okay, yeah. I had a bottle of Angel's Envy that I got tucked away. That waiting to enjoy that one. I got a couple open, one rye, but I got one saved just for the rainy day if things get tight again. So,
awesome.
Anything you looking for that you don't have?
The Taylor.
The barrel,
the
barrel proof, yeah.
That's one of my unicorns.
All right, so you gotta Tony. You gotta. He's the guy.
To Tony too. I'm gonna say, come on, Tony.
I don't know if he can come through or not, but it's amazing what he can do.
If you don't ask, you'll never find out.
That's it. All right, thanks for stopping in, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank
All right.
So here, everyone, I want to thank Beau Beckman for coming up here. It's been 7 years. We been going to Kentucky and picking barrels with him. And the first day I saw him, I said, man, you should come to Michigan. So it took me 7 years, but I finally got him up here. So I let him have the stage. This is his day. Great man to know. I really learned a lot from you. I appreciate it. And there's Beau Beckman.
Again, my name's Beau Taylor Beckman. So I actually got lucky that a guy from your all's neck of the woods, Kid Rock, wanted to do Red Stag. So him doing Red Stag with Jim Beam got us Sazerac interested because we have George T. Stag, and we didn't like that. So our president and CEO, his name is Mark Brown. During our litigation or dispute with Beam, we ended up making an agreement, and part of that agreement was we got the old Taylor brand back. So this was around 2008, 2009. At that time, I was fresh out of school, and I was just doing some completely separate job. And meanwhile, my grandmother was making a documentary with the distillery called Quest for the Perfect Bourbon. Have anybody ever seen that? It's an oral history project we did with the University of Kentucky so we could get information out of the folks who've been at the distillery forever and make sure we captured it. So there's folks like Elmer T. Lee, been there for 70 years. If anybody's been to the distillery, had a tour with Freddie Johnson. He's third generation. We interviewed his dad before he passed away. We interviewed Freddie, the Van Winkles. Well, as my grandmother was making this documentary, we reacquired the Old Taylor brand. So she was working with the marketing team, and she said, my husband this is my grandfather, E.H. Taylor Hay Jr. And I'm like, that's interesting. And so my grandfather actually brought the Old Taylor bottle from 100 years ago, gave it to Mark Brown, and Mark took one look at it and said, perfect, that'll work, we'll use that. So that's literally the exact same. There's some different coloring, but that label, that signature, all that was the exact same 100 years ago. So Colonel Taylor was just far ahead of his time. He built our distillery to be a tourism attraction just 150 years too early. Didn't start taking off his tourism the last 10 years, probably somewhere in there. So I ended up getting my foot in the door with Buffalo Trace to run their barrel program. And that was about the time I met Tony. At that time, anybody could buy a barrel whenever they wanted. It was really easy to get. You could say, I want to come tomorrow and buy a barrel of Elmer. I'd say, that's awesome, let's do it. Things have changed quite a bit since then. The popularity has increased. Folks have got wind of the good stuff, know what they're doing. So that's how we got here.
Tell them about the OWA when you chased me and told me I should buy it.
This was actually, I don't like the way bourbon currently is, meaning I don't like saying no. I used to be like the fun guy because you'd say, I want to buy a barrel of something. I'd say, yes, let's do it. This is awesome. And you come to the distillery, I show you around, everyone was happy. Now I spend all my time saying, no, you can't have that because I don't have enough of it. And I remember vividly, and I tell the story all the time, when Tony was there and he was picking barrels of Buffalo Trace, and I was telling him, Tony, we've got this brand called Weller. It's weeded, it's delicious, and at the time it's half the price of Makers. I'm sure if you can find it now, it still might be half the price of Makers. Same recipe we used to make Pappy, it's delicious, people just don't know about it. And I don't know, I was like, trust me, it's awesome. And I did that with Weller and Elmer, and then now here we are, and everyone says, "But what's your favorite drink?" I'm like, "Well, can I find it? If I can find something, Weller 12, but I can never find it." So
that's the one that everyone chases, really, from all the bottles.
Yeah, really, our barrel program took off because it's great value. Buffalo Trace is all of our barrel picks are going to be 8-year-old, $25 a bottle. Eagle Rare, 10-year-old, $30 a bottle. Weller was 7-8-year-old at the time. Like what, $22 a bottle? $24 a bottle. It was just, it was a no-brainer. Yeah.
It's still $26.99 right now. The 107 here, which is a very, very fair price for the product. As long as how old it is, compared to other brand new brands that are coming into town right now, and they're starting out with like 3 and 4 years old and selling for $40, $50.
Yeah, Liz is probably getting sick of me telling this story because this happened last weekend. So to tell you how crazy things are, so a barrel of Weller would cost, if you were a consumer and you're able to buy a barrel for yourself, it would cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $6,000, somewhere in there. I donated a barrel of Weller to the Kids Cancer Alliance, and they auctioned off the barrel of Weller and the experience to go to the distillery to pick it like Tony always does. And last weekend it sold for $30,000. So that's a $5,000 barrel for $30,000 for that. It just shows you how crazy that demand is absolutely nuts these days.
Yeah,
good for the kids. It's good for the kids. That's why I'd rather value go to a charity than the secondary market, because that's what really kills us. We say this is a good price. Buffalo Trace is this value. Well, if it goes way up here, then it's not a great value anymore. Same with Weller. That's what worries me when I see it. Awesome. Well, I'll stop blabbing. I'll sit down. If you guys have any questions, ask. Fire away. There's nothing off limits. Anything bugging you, I can help answer. Maybe.
Why did it take you 7 years to get there?
Yeah, did it take 7 years? Well, everything about us in Kentucky is slow. Bourbon slow. Everything's slow. Yeah. Tony never actually invited me. He just said. I booked a flight and he said no, different one, so I had to cancel it. No, it just took me too long. No excuses.
I really love working with you, Beau. I appreciate it. The process, you made it sound very easy. And the very first time I went to Kentucky, actually, the first barrel I got into the store 7 years ago was a Buffalo Trace. And at the time, I was started selling a lot of bourbon, and people said, I was like, oh, well, let me buy a barrel, you know. So Mark Shore actually did the barrel with me. He brought the samples here, and we did the barrel, and we sold it within like 2 months, which was unheard of for me, you know, to sell a barrel in 3 months.
Because that was the time when it was
So-
scary to buy an entire barrel first.
yeah,
No one wanted to
yeah,
do it. They were like,
yeah.
that's a crazy idea. Why would anybody buy an entire barrel?
So January we went and picked. I told Mark, and we got to go back to the distillery. I really have to go to the distillery. I want to see it. How far is it from here? He's like 6.5 hours, and I could do it. And man, ever since then I've been hooked. I mean, you see me 3-4 times
Yeah.
a year in Buffalo Trace, and probably like 7-8 times a year in Kentucky together.
I was thinking about it yesterday. One of the last times you showed up, it was the wrong day.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen the look on it. It was like the first time Tony brought customers.
Thanks for telling everyone.
I was like, oh, this is so exciting, but Tony, you're not supposed to be here today.
Yeah.
I was like, but you came back the next morning.
Yeah, the next day, yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, we're so excited to
I
pick our
was like,
first
of course, the first time you bring other folks. You worked it out.
But
said
thank you. I
that.
appreciate you taking care of it. That's what makes it fun, you know. Barrel picking should be about fun and getting people together and trying it out, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we have the Brotherhood of the Barrel, because it's like a bunch of us picking from it. And I really like to bring people with me, new people all the time, to see the history, to interact with it, see how it's made. I mean, once you see how it's made, you just fall in love with the process.
That was always my, ace in the hole. Barrels take forever. That's just. I ordered a barrel. Where is it? When's your barrel getting in? When's your barrel getting in? They take forever. I think they take forever.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So when I have folks like Tony at the distillery, the only thing I want to do is show them why it takes forever. This is our hand bottling hall. This is where we hand bottle every barrel. This is where you drill a barrel.
It's literally, that room is crazy. It's that room that he's talking about. It's maybe 12 by 12,
No.
maybe 14 by 14. Maybe a little bit bigger.
It's a small room.
It's a very small room.
And all the
one
blazons
barrel
in the
at a
world
time.
comes from one bottling line.
Is it 3 bottles at a time being bottled?
Yeah, the filler is 6, but it's just very cool. If you come to the distillery, you'll see it on the tours.
Highly recommend the tour.
It's a free tour.
Yeah.
And they give you 3 drinks at the end.
If you haven't noticed that this on the image is this on the bottle, the canister here, that is the distillery. So E.H. Taylor, I don't know if I told you all, he built Buffalo Trace. That's why we wanted that brand back. But he also built what is now Woodford, Four Roses. He would buy distilleries, dump a ton of money into it, and then he'd gather investors, dump money into it, and try to make it state of the art. Everything had to be top of the line. So, ironically enough, he went bankrupt building Buffalo Trace and sold it to our wholesaler at the time, who was George T. Stagg. And they didn't like each other. They can't really. There's actually a lady in the gift shop. Her name is, I call her Miss Keeney. Her name's Keeney Stagg. And she's a Stagg descendant, and I'm Taylor descendant. And so we bridged the gap. We made the family friends again.
How many barrels Buffalo Trace have right now in the warehouses, in the brick houses?
Yeah, so it's actually, if anybody is, that's what it's interesting, because every time I'm working with, an account or a wholesaler, Tony buys his booze from a wholesaler, and I work with them too. The wholesaler asks me for more booze. Tony asked the wholesaler for more booze. You all asked Tony for more booze. And it's funny, I just wish we could get all on a line and just talk about it. Everyone's saying, we don't have it. It's aging. So how many barrels right now? So the distillery, the current capacity is like 300,000 barrels. And that's spread across 15 warehouses. Within the last 2 years, we bought 300 more acres. And then starting January of 2018, so last January, we started building a new warehouse every 3 or 4 months. And they're all 60,000 barrel warehouses. So bigger than any warehouse we have now. And we're going to be building about 30 new warehouses over the next 10 years. So there is a massive, massive gap between how much we have and how much people want. And you hear people say, "Oh, you're sending it overseas." No, we're not. All my friends ask, "Are these bourbon tariffs going to hurt you?" No, we don't have enough to send overseas right now. If it's not popular here, it's not going to be popular overseas. We're doing our best to catch up. There's just more of you all drinking. I always use this to just kind of keep in mind that the challenge here is we have to decide today how much Pappy 23 we're going to sell in 2041.
I'll buy all of it.
And,
Whatever
so,
you think, double that.
Yeah, and here's where the issue is. And like I know Eagle Rare 2005, we looked at sales. I say we, I wasn't working for the company in 2005, but we looked at sales and decided to put away 10 times more barrels than we were currently selling cases. So 10x the volume. And this was in 2005. We forecasted that for 2015, and we thought that was nuts. That was a huge risk, and we got 2015 when it was close enough. Now, there's also a tax on barrels in Kentucky. It's an ad valorem tax. So this is a Kentucky tax only. It's about $250 per barrel per year set the distillery aging. So as you age, a barrel of Eagle Rare, that's $2,500 in tax, just a local tax, just to bottle that barrel. And then you pay the federal tax based on the alcohol content. And then the wholesaler buys it, pays sales tax, sales tax.
Do you guys pay the tax at the very end of the barrel?
Yeah, so you see a bonded warehouse. So bottled and bond is separate from a bonded warehouse. A bonded warehouse means we have to pay tax to bring that out of the warehouse.
So as you bottle it, that's when you pay the tax on the barrel.
Exactly. So if you think of what happens if, let's say everyone stops drinking bourbon, we're paying tax on all those barrels. We have nothing to do with them. So that's the big risk of overproducing, which is what happened during the Korean War. Everyone overproduced. Your inventory is going down because you lose, your barrels are evaporating as they're aging. So your inventory is going down while the cost of your inventory is going up the whole time. So it's a very risky thing to say, yeah, I'll make 20 times the volume we're doing now. So it's been, grow slow is what we've always done. Now it's kind of like, okay, put the pedal to the metal.
Well, you guys should.
Yeah. Well, there's actually Kentucky got smart and realized they were going to kill its best industry and started giving us tax credits to offset that ad valorem tax on the barrels based on visitors and growing the distillery. So that happened within the last 2 years.
That's awesome. That's good.
Yeah. Because really what you saw happening was Diageo. They're going to build a distillery. Diageo is from the UK. They don't care if they're in Kentucky or Indiana. We want them in Kentucky because Kentucky wants bourbon. But if it's a lot cheaper to have a warehouse in Indiana, why would they do that? So that's when Kentucky got smart, wised up a little bit.
And when did they start putting the word Kentucky straight bourbon?
Ooh, I don't know. I kind of stay really all these little labeling things. It's I just stopped paying attention to it.
So is it a recent thing?
I have no idea. Honestly, unless you just asked me that, I would have no idea that people stopped using. I still think Kentucky straight bourbon.
Yeah, I mean, I see that some of them, they just say straight bourbon.
Yeah.
And obviously the ones that come from Kentucky,
Both
I assume they
advertise.
will say Kentucky straight bourbon. As they should, because that's where it came from.
Yeah, that's our bread and butter.
Yeah.
Okay. But my brother is a horse trainer, and I'm in bourbon, so we got the whole tourism thing covered.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your friendship. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
You guys are
in
very
and
lucky
taking
to
the
have
time.
Tony around.
I appreciate it. Thank
He
you.
cares. He tries very hard. Wears me out sometimes. Wanting more beats for you guys.
All right, it's the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're at the Wine Garden, and a very special guest today from the Buffalo Trace Distilleries, and Beau Beckman. Thank you for taking a couple of seconds and coming over and talking to us. We're glad to have you.
Very happy to support any man caves I can.
Right on. So, you guys brought the small batch of the Colonel Taylor, and people have been buying them, coming in. You've been autographing them, which has been a riot. It was great. And you talked to everybody before you started autographing stuff, and it was neat because you had a story to tell, and it had a little bit of a Detroit tie to it. So, what was that story that you told as folks were rolling in here?
Yeah, so essentially it was kind of how I got, a convenient convergence in circumstance got me to my job. And it really all started with Mr. Kid Rock. So him and Beam got together and came out with their own brand, Red Stag.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm probably still in college when they were doing this. Meanwhile, our Sazerac, our company, had a brand called George T. Stag. So I think there was a little worry about the copyright infringement.
Sure.
So our bosses all got together, sat in a room, and tried to come up with a solution. And the solution to that problem was, at the time, Old Taylor was a brand owned by Beam, or they could have been Fortune brands at the time, whatever it was. And it wasn't a well-performing brand for them. This was probably 2007, 2008, something like that. And so part of the lawsuit, when everything came dust settled, they could keep producing Red Stag. We got the Old Taylor brand back.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't think a lot of people understood Taylor's impact with bourbon at the time.
Right, because you just mentioned a couple of things that he really started and helped establish so many of the distilleries down there for many of the still functioning places.
Yes, so he had a big hand in bridging the gap from pot stills farmers to big bourbon.
Okay.
Him and James Crow were kind of the first two that really focused on quality.
All right.
So you see this pointing to a tax strip across the bottle here.
Sure, yeah.
But that is the bottled and bond tax strip.
Okay.
So E.H. Taylor got the government in 1897 to pass an act called the Bottled and Bond Act.
Okay.
Because the issue at the time is what he called imitation whiskey.
Okay.
Which was, back in the day, you had all these distilleries making barrels, and you would have guys called rectifiers that would go to different distilleries, buy barrels, make their own blend.
All right.
Nothing wrong with that. That's still a process today that people do. If you do a good job, there's a lot of people that do a really good job at that.
Okay.
But back then, you can imagine there's people that would be pretty shady and pretty sneaky with that. So they would get, grain neutral spirits and add tobacco spit for coloring and anything they could to pass it off as bourbon.
Oh my.
And so there was no regulations to the industry. So getting this act passed was kind of the first step to say, look, this is a good product. You can trust what you're buying in this. And so what this tax strip says to the customer is this is at least 4 years old.
Okay.
Every drop in this bottle was made at the same distillery in the same season.
All right.
It is 100 proof, and it was all made by the same distiller.
Okay.
So that was kind of the first, quality that was put on alcohol.
Okay.
Well, that led to the Pure Food and Drug Act in 1906 that Taylor also led, which now has bigger impact on.
Sure.
So he was just way ahead of his time.
Wow. And so, but that brand had kind of drifted to a different distillery. Right?
Yeah.
But was he part of?
So it's actually he sold E.H. Taylor
right
to National Distillers.
Okay.
And right before Prohibition.
Okay.
So there's an Old Taylor distillery. So it's down the street in Frankfurt.
Okay.
It was called the Old Taylor Distillery, and he sold that to National Distillers. And National Distillers, I don't know if this is the correct path it went, but National Distillers eventually turned into Fortune Brands.
Okay.
And Fortune Brands then split up, and Jim Beam went one way.
Right.
And all their other stuff went the other way.
Okay.
So Taylor was owned by Beam that whole time.
All right.
And then that's when eventually we bought it back from Beam.
All right.
So it's interesting. Have you ever seen the Mad Men, the TV show?
Yeah.
That's what, so it's one of my favorite shows. And if you watch the beginning when they're falling down on the buildings, you see all those advertisements. You see a lot of one, but old Taylor advertisement.
Love it.
So he was a master marketer among many things.
Right on. So that's just fantastic. And then the label itself, when it came time to re-release it, you guys claimed it. There was a part of your story that you shared with us was about the label.
Yes, so we didn't have to do anything with it. We just took the bottle from 100 years ago. So the E.H. Taylor label is an elevated brand compared to Old Taylor. Old Taylor is picture your plastic bottles on the shelves, the value stuff. So the E.H. Taylor is an elevated item. So the Old Taylor was what was on the shelves. The bottle we have now, this E.H. Taylor, hadn't hit a shelf in years.
Okay.
It's been 100 years since that bottle was around.
Sure.
So we just took one look at the old bottle. Said, that'll work. Perfect.
That's brilliant.
Literally, my grandfather pulled it out of his closet and been sitting there and just offered it to Mark Brown, who's our president and CEO.
Yeah.
And he said, that's perfect. We'll run with it.
And so you're like related 4 times great, right? In the bio,
yes.
it says great.
Yeah, lots of greats.
Grandson.
Yeah. So,
right?
I never met him.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
So I've grown up here and everything.
Sure.
So he's actually my grandparents' house growing up. This is my grandfather, E.H. Taylor Hay Jr.
Okay.
So his dad was E.H. Taylor Hay.
Okay.
His dad was Swigert Taylor.
Okay.
So there's a girl in the equation here.
Fair enough.
So E.H. Taylor Hay's dad was Swigert Taylor, but his wife was the Hay, if that makes sense. So,
right.
Anywho, Colonel Taylor was my great-grandfather's great-grandfather.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So that's 4, 5, 6 times up.
6 generations. Yep.
Wow, that's great.
No.
But did you know you'd be in the bourbon game?
I would love to act like I have my entire life, but
No.
Sales was really something I like working with people, and I always kind of gone in that direction. I had no idea I would ever be doing this.
And then back into the family.
No one's happier than my grandfather.
I tell you. So did it help getting the job that you were tied in?
I like to think so.
Yeah.
It was actually, there were so many things that happened. So I mentioned to you, I was doing out of college, I was hired. My buddy graduated college in 2001,
right?
And his dad owned a bunch of car dealerships. So he was like, Dad, you need to do some internet stuff here. It's getting pretty big. So we let him take over all the websites and do lead generators. So when I got out of college, he said, well, yeah, I need help with this kind of thing I'm running. If you wanted to start doing SEO, the search engine optimization, try to drive traffic to those websites. I was a marketing major. I was doing my best. I was trying. It's hard to do that stuff. So I was doing that for a few years, and actually probably about a year. And then we had a lot of leads going to the websites, but none of the salesmen were following up with them. So we ended up building a customer relationship management tool for the dealerships to where we could train their salesmen how to use this, how to follow up with customers. We basically built a system for the salesmen to use and their general managers to manage salesmen. That was about the time where I got the call from my grandmother who said, hey, I'm working with the marketing department on this oral history project and, over at the distillery. And they told me there's a barrel program they have, and they need someone to run it, but they also need a system. They don't have any sort of system around it. So we had all these salesmen that were trying to buy barrels. So basically Tony has a salesman in Michigan he works with to get barrels. And so there was no process. So they need someone to build a system. So that's what I was currently doing, was building systems for salesmen to use to manage, their customers and all that kind of follow-up. And it certainly didn't help that E.H. Taylor was just got back acquired by our distillery within like a year of that, and he built the distillery. So I knew going into the interviews that they knew I had relation to Taylor, but I didn't. I didn't talk about it or anything because I knew they knew. So I was just kind of.
Is it like a really big family? It's like, okay, everybody's related.
It is a big family.
Yeah.
But we have I have old desks of Taylor's. I have old books that he signed that were in my grandparents' house. So it's in Frankfurt, my grandparents' house. Yeah. So there are a decent amount of Taylors. I got 3 brothers and sisters, and then my mom's got, I guess 3 or 4. She got half brothers and sisters too. Sure. So my grandfather has 8 kids.
Wow. Okay. So there'd be a lot of you around.
Yeah. And then there's other side. There's his brothers and sisters, and then their brother. So there are a decent amount of Taylors, but not a lot with direct insight into the world.
So now you guys have the infrastructure there, and you're helping people. You do the single barrel picks. Is that what your day-to-day gig at the distillery is?
Yeah. So it's now kind of grown out a little bit to where when I started, I would have someone like Tony show up at the distillery, and I'd show him around, and we would spend 4 or 5 hours together and pick a barrel.
Right.
Well, it's grown quite a bit over the years. So now we have 2 groups a day at the distillery.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And the majority of my job, all the hard work, is behind the computer. So when it got to the point where I would be with, our customers 8 hours a day, didn't have time to do any of the actual work.
Yeah.
So I can sell all the barrels I want, but if I can't bottle them and ship them to you, it doesn't do much good.
No.
So over the years, it got to the point where I needed help. So now we got a new team member, Susanna Hubler, who manages all of our barrel selections at Buffalo Trace, and she's awesome. Tony loves her. Yeah. And so now I can kind of just sit there and slap a keyboard and keep the engine moving.
Tony and Patrick walked us through their last visit down there when they were picking some barrels. It's just an amazing, it's a fascinating process.
Yes. So in college, between school years, I would sell cars. And I hated it because it's a win-lose.
Right.
Either I made a lot of money because the customer had to pay more than they should have, or I worked with the customer for 8 hours and made nothing because they left.
Right.
So it's I was like, I don't like this at all. And when I heard about the barrel program and I started kind of thinking through it, all the incentives were aligned. Nobody loses.
Sure.
So, we're selling this product for the same price we sell the everyday product. And just for folks, think of, instead of going to the dealership and buying a Mercedes or, we're Detroit, so I'll pick something better, Chrysler.
Sure. Fair play.
Yeah. You could go online and build your own Chrysler, and they would send it to the dealership for you to go pick up. So this barrel program is similar to that. You're getting your own personalized barrel.
Yeah.
So you go to the dealers, you go to the distillery, you learn all about the distillery. You're there for an entire day. You get a barrel.
Yeah.
And then you buy it at the same price per bottle as the stock item. But then you can sell it to your customers and have a story to tell them why your customers come in. You got all this stuff to talk about. So it works great for the retailers because they get to develop a bourbon, educated customer base, which helps them sell more. It works great for us because they're marketing our brands naturally. Because as soon as they leave the distillery, it's their barrel. It's our barrel, but it's their barrel because he picked it. So the retailers love it because it's great business for them. It's great business for us. Everyone wins. That's my favorite. Everyone's happy.
That's awesome.
Well, everyone was happy until we ran out of barrels.
Sure, yeah. Well, and that was something else. I don't know how you run out of barrels because you were throwing some numbers out there. You have like over 300,000 barrels in the rack houses right now.
Yeah. And so what you got to remember with that is...
And you're building.
Yeah. And there's 20 plus bourbon brands there.
Yeah.
And of those 300,000 barrels, so first if you divide, it's not going to work even like this. Just to give you an idea. Divide that by 20.
Okay.
I can't do that math that fast, but sure it's something.
I'm an English teacher. No, that was my impression. There would be no math.
Yeah, no math. I'll state the problem.
Okay.
And then,
Gotcha.
Someone with a calculator can do it. So if you have 300,000 barrels of 20 different brands.
Okay.
Well, now those 20 different brands are going to be ages varying from filled today to maybe 23 years old.
Sure. Yeah.
So you really don't have as much there as you want.
Yeah.
And the other main thing is, if we used to sell barrels of Pappy Van Winkle.
Sure.
We used to try to go to accounts and offer them to buy a barrel or beg them to buy a barrel.
People are having heart attacks right now listening to barrels of Pappy.
Right? This is probably like 2004, 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
Well, when it gets to the point where one account can't buy one bottle, we're not going to sell a barrel of that anymore because it's not fair.
Yeah.
So what's happening right now is we're selling barrels, but we can't sell too many because, like Blanton's, I sell barrels of Blanton's, but how hard is it to get a bottle of Blanton's right now?
Yeah, it's
very hard.
Challenging sometimes.
So I can't sell too many to where we can't do any stock Blanton's. So we're always going to make sure we can, manage the stock offering first. So we want everyday Blanton's, and then I'm able to carve out a little chunk of that for myself for us, for personalized barrels.
Yeah. Well, that's your deal, right? Selling the single barrels, getting them out there.
So every year we make more bourbon.
Right.
So I should have a few more barrels each year.
Your process, your schedule for building. You're adding new warehouses or new rick houses, right? Mm-hmm. Rick houses.
Yep.
All right.
Rick houses, warehouses.
All right. Fair play.
Whatever you want to call it.
All right.
Yeah.
So I want to get it
things
right.
that hold barrels.
Okay.
Well, that's what there's no right with a lot of these
Okay.
things.
Fair play.
I'm on the team. Just
drink it, enjoy it, and come on back for more.
Yeah. So Elmer T. Lee worked at the distillery for 71 years. We crossed over for about 3. So I didn't get to spend as much time with them as I'd like to, but the time I was around him, I was listening.
Yeah.
And I remember one customer asked him, Elmer, what do you get if you mix a really good bourbon with Coke? And, you'll have a lot of people that turn their nose up, I can't believe you'd ever mix bourbon and Coke. And Elmer's answer was a really good bourbon and Coke. He's like, perfect. If you like bourbon and Coke, drink bourbon and Coke. If you like bourbon on the rocks, drink bourbon on the rocks. However you like it.
Perfect.
So we're very unpretentious. It's like, there's no right or wrong.
But you guys are building for the future to try to meet the demand because there is just crazy demand.
Yes, and I think a lot of people are like, man, you guys don't make as much as you used to. No, we are shipping more to your state than we ever have.
Yeah.
It's just you used to be the one guy in your neighborhood drinking Blanton's or Buffalo Trace. Now everyone around you is too.
Yeah.
So it's just there's more people, and it takes us 8 years to catch up. Right. Buffalo Trace is 8 years, so the barrels we're making today we can't sell until 2026. Yeah.
Right.
Doing my math.
Now there's more math.
Yeah.
Love it.
And we only have 50% of this volume. You lose 10% of your whiskey the first year it ages, about 4% every year after that.
Right. Wow. That's crazy. And then, we got to rate. They're giving us the high sign. We're wrapping it up. You probably want to go eat too. You guys have been running. That's it. Hell yeah.
I love attention.
Same thing. So I really appreciate you taking some time and hanging out in the man cave for a little bit and being here at the Wine Garden in Michigan. Finally made it after Tony bugging you for 7 years, right?
It should have been years ago.
Yeah. So really, really appreciate it.
Build excitement.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Cheers.